Hello, my name is Daniel Lader, founder of Lader CPA and Associates, and welcome back to our Instagram live series where we are talking about building a successful private practice from beginning to infinity. Now, there are two types of people in the world: those who cry in therapy and those who cry doing their taxes. And then there's some of us who are just overachievers and do both. All right, so getting into the topic for this week, we are talking about leasing versus owning your office space and the questions to consider when you're making this decision. Now, as your business is growing, you're going to come up to this point eventually where you're going to need a physical office space if you don't have one already. Or maybe you have a physical office space, but now that you're growing, it's time to move. So that's where these questions will come into play. Now, I am not going to give you advice. I'm going to give you the questions that you can ask to know how to structure this decision. Renting an office or owning an office, it's not a right or wrong decision. It's whatever is best for you. So let's get into this. First off, what option or which option best aligns with your business goals? What are your short-term business goals, your long-term business goals, and how does your office space choice support those goals? Now, do you want the flexibility to grow and relocate, or are you looking to establish yourself in a permanent presence? Those questions will help you decide. We'll continue on as well. Now, also, how predictable do you want your monthly expenses to be? That's also going to play into this. Now, let's talk about the cash flow and costs of owning or renting an office space. First off, when you buy a property for an office space, there is going to be a large upfront cost, your down payment. Can your business afford that kind of cash outlay? Or would locking into a rent rate that's stable over a long period, year, 3 years, etc., would that be more beneficial to your business and solidifying that cash flow at one number, making it more predictable, more manageable over the short term? Now, how does each option work with your business's cash flow? You got to think about how you're paying for these. Now, as a tax professional, I've got to talk about the tax implications here. First off, there is nothing wrong with leasing a place from a tax perspective, and there's nothing wrong with owning a place from a tax perspective. When you lease your office space, that entire payment is a tax-deductible expense. That's great. And that's as complicated as it gets. When you own an office space, it is more complicated. First off, simply buying the property does not create any taxable expenses that you can deduct. When you buy that property, you are making a cash outlay of some thousands of dollars. And if you enter into a mortgage, you'll have future outlays of cash to continue paying for that. Or if you pay for it all up front, it's just one massive cash outlay. None of those directly create a deductible expense. Let's talk about depreciation. We talked about that briefly with relating to office equipment. Let's talk about your office space. When you own an office space, you can depreciate it, which is allowing you to recover the cost of the thing, the entire cost, not only what you actually paid for it yet. So a mortgage doesn't affect the depreciation much. So the entire cost of the purchase is spread over a 39-year period. So let's use a really easy example. Let's say you bought a property for your office at $390,000. Over 39 years, you can claim $10,000 every year for those 39 years to recover the cost of your office. Now, that might be great for some of you. That might be less than great for other of you, depending on what your situation is. But that depreciation is how far out you spread the cost of recovering the expenses of recovering the cost outlay for buying that property. Got tangled on my words there. Now, If you have a mortgage, you're paying a mortgage payment. However, not that entire mortgage payment is tax deductible. Only the portion that is the interest portion of that mortgage payment. The rest, the principal, that is not deductible. So right away we see that owning a place has a little bit more complicated tax situation. If you're working with a tax professional, these are not difficult hurdles to get over. They're pretty easy and straightforward. We've all been doing those pretty much our entire career. But I wanted to make sure you knew that there is a difference between the tax implications of both. Now, let's talk about the risks and responsibilities you're taking on. If you're leasing or renting an office space, something breaks, needs to be repaired. If it's in your contract, whoever the owner is going to take care of that kind of repair for you. And the risk, the responsibility is off your shoulders. If you own your office space and something breaks, there's no one to turn to. That responsibility is on your shoulders. So who do you want, or what kind of risk and responsibility do you want with your office space? And if you're owning, do you want the additional responsibilities of managing that property on top of running your therapy practice? So another thing to consider there. Now, eventually, everything changes. One day you may be ready to either retire, or you might decide to make a change, or you just decide you're done doing therapy, you're going to do something else. You need an exit strategy. Long term or short term, you need an exit strategy. So the exit strategies change based on if you're owning a place or leasing a place. If you lease a place, it's very easy to get out of a lease. Even if you've got a contract for 12 months or a few years, you can either let that run out and be done, or work with the property owner on getting out of that lease sooner. And that's it. That's as complicated as getting out of a lease. Getting out of owning an office space, though, you have to sell the place. And that gets a little bit more complicated. So we're looking at the ease of getting out of a lease versus the complexity of selling a space. But on the flip side, selling an office space has a pretty large income to you, a pretty large cash flow coming into you, and that's great. Getting out of a lease, zero cash income. Sometimes you have to pay a little bit to get out of a lease. So that's the other thing you consider with your exit strategy if you're going to own or lease a place. Now, if you are thinking about buying your office space, you want to consider how that's going to fit into your business's structure, how it's set up. It's not a good idea for your therapy office or your therapy practice to own real estate. Most professionals will tell you to avoid that kind of situation. So you'll be better off setting up a new separate business to own the real estate. And you need to consider, or how would you consider owning that new business with its real estate, and how that affects your business's tax picture and your personal tax picture. So these questions, you'll notice I didn't give you any advice. I hope I didn't give you any advice that isn't going to help you look forward, but I mostly gave you questions to look at and think about. Now, depending on what you're looking at and what your situation and goals are, your question on if you should own or lease might have been answered by those first questions. Or you might have a more complicated situation and you want to dig down into it and really understand if owning or leasing is better for you. That might involve calculating the tax impacts, calculating your cash flow, and making predictions about the future. If you're in that situation, talk with the tax professional. They can help you work out the details and know how to project that into the future and look at things. Or you can do that yourself, of course. But depending on your situation, this question is either easy to answer or complicated, but worth answering the right way for you. Now, if you have any questions about this topic, go ahead and comment on the video or shoot me a DM. I'll respond as I'm able to. If you and your firm would like to schedule a free discovery call with me or with my practice, go ahead and DM us. We'll send you a calendar link and we can talk about your business's tax strategy and how it's implemented and what things can be done to improve it. So go ahead and DM me if you want to do that. Remember to follow and subscribe for future tax tips and notifications of events like this, and visit our website, latercpa.com. I will see you all on the next video, and have a great weekend and keep helping others to help themselves. Bye.